The Saddle Ridge hoard was discovered in February 2013 by a couple walking their dog on their rural property in Northern California. This massive stash consisted of over 1,400 gold coins. The coins date from 1847 to 1894, primarily consisting of $20 gold pieces minted in San Francisco during the California Gold Rush. The hoard was found buried in 8 metal cans, with many coins in pristine condition, indicating they had never been circulated. The discovery occurred when the couple, known only by the pseudonyms John and Mary, noticed a rusted can sticking out of the ground on their property. Upon investigation, they found the first of several cans filled with gold coins. The couple wisely kept their identities and the location of their find secret, though did clearly go public with it. The origins of the Saddle Ridge hoard remain a mystery at this time. One initial theory suggested the hoard could be the result of a 1901 theft from the San Francisco Mint by an employee named Walter Dimmick. But this has been ruled out by the U.S. Treasury because the coins in the hoard did not match those stolen. Another theory posits that the coins might have been buried by a miner or a wealthy individual who did not trust banks, a common practice during the late 19th century. Think a 19th century Ron Swanson burying precious metals. The condition and selection of the coins suggest a careful and deliberate act of saving over many years, possibly by someone with substantial wealth. More fantastical theories include connections to famous outlaws like Jesse James, or even a hidden stash intended for financing a second shot at the Confederacy. However, these ideas are largely speculative and lack concrete evidence. Following the discovery, the coins were authenticated and evaluated by the professional coin grading service. The total face value of the coins is about $28,000, but due to their rarity and condition, their market value is significantly higher. One particular coin is so rare that it is valued at around $1 million. John and Mary chose to remain anonymous, but they did work with a numismatic firm to handle the sale of the coins. Part of the proceeds was used to pay off debts and make charitable donations. Despite various theories, the true story behind why these coins were buried and by whom may never be known. The Great Sheep Panic. The Great Sheep Panic occurred on the evening of November 3, 1888, across Oxfordshire, England. It involved tens of thousands of sheep that suddenly and inexplicably bolted from their pens and fields, causing widespread chaos and destruction across a 200 square mile area. The panic began at approximately 8 p.m., when sheep in numerous locations simultaneously broke free from their enclosures, trampling fences and spreading across the countryside. By the next morning, many sheep were found huddled under hedges or packed into corners of fields, displaying signs of extreme fear and exhaustion. Various theories have been proposed to explain this bizarre phenomenon. Initially, some speculated that pranksters or predators like dogs or foxes might have caused the panic. However, this explanation was quickly dismissed, as it would have required an impossible level of coordination across such a vast area. Additionally, the sheep showed no physical signs of being attacked. Naturalist Oliver Vernon Aplin suggested that the panic might have been triggered by an exceptionally dark night, exacerbated by sudden flashes of lightning. Witnesses described the night as being so dark that one could not see their own hand, with some reports mentioning a thick, dark cloud rolling along the ground. This extreme darkness could have disoriented and terrified the sheep, leading to the mass panic. Sheep are known to be particularly sensitive and prone to panic in unusual conditions, and the combination of darkness and atmospheric disturbances might have been enough to set them off. Another theory suggested that the sheep were disturbed by occult activities, or some form of ritual. Strange symbols, akin to runes, were allegedly found in the soil near the grazing grounds. However, it has been suggested that this is either a fabrication or a misinterpretation of natural hoof prints, or other mundane phenomenon. Despite extensive investigations and numerous theories, the true cause of the Great Sheep Panic remains unsolved. In 1921, the scientific journal Nature discussed the possibility of the panic being related to meteorological phenomena, noting that sheep are susceptible to atmospheric disturbances. However, no definitive evidence was ever found to support this theory. Adding to the mystery, a similar event occurred just 4 years later, in 1893, again in Oxfordshire and extending into neighboring counties. Once more, thousands of sheep simultaneously panicked under eerily dark skies. This recurring nature of the panic further deepened the mystery, as it suggested a pattern that was not easily explained by simple or common causes. The Lovers of Moda. In 2009, archaeologists uncovered 2 intertwined skeletons in a necropolis in Modena, Italy, now famously known as the Lovers of Moda. Initially thought to be a male and female, further analysis revealed both skeletons were male. The 2 men were buried between the 4th and 6th centuries AD, a period when such burials were unusual. The initial assumption was based on the common practice of burying a male and female couple hand in hand, reflecting romantic love. However, a 2019 study using enamel peptides from the teeth confirmed the skeletons were both male. The relationship between these 2 men remains a mystery. Federico Lugli, a researcher from the University of Bologna, suggested several possibilities, including that they could have been brothers, cousins, or soldiers who perished together. This hypothesis stems from the context of their burial site, which could have been a war cemetery. Many of the surrounding graves also contained individuals who had suffered physical trauma, reinforcing the theory of a battleground burial. This revelation has implications for understanding social and cultural norms of the time. In late antiquity, explicit recognition of gay relationships was rare, especially within burial practices. Consequently, the possibility that they were lovers challenges contemporary perceptions of ancient societal norms. Adding to the intrigue, there are no other known burials from this period featuring 2 men holding hands. This uniqueness makes the Lovers of Moda a significant case for archaeologists and historians, prompting questions about the nature of their relationship and the customs of the era. The mystery surrounding the Lovers of Moda is further compounded by the limited historical records from the period, leaving much to speculation. Researchers continue to study the site and surrounding graves to gather more context and possibly uncover additional clues about the lives and relationship of these 2 men. The Texarcana Moonlight Slayings. In 1946, the city of Texarcana, which straddles the state line between Texas and Arkansas, experienced a series of violent attacks. Known as the Texarcana Moonlight Murders, these events unfolded between February and May, leading to widespread fear and uncertainty among the residents. The first attack occurred on February 22, 1946. Jimmy Hollis and Mary Jean Larry were parked on a local lover's lane when a man wearing a white sack with cutout eyes and mouth holes approached them, shining a flashlight. He forced Hollis out of the car, beat him severely, and then assaulted Larry. Both victims survived, but their accounts of the attacker varied, with Hollis believing the man was white, while Larry thought he was black. The second attack happened on March 24, 1946, when Richard L. Griffin and Polly Ann Moore were found dead in Griffin's car on another secluded lover's lane. They had both been shot in the head, with evidence suggesting they were attacked outside the car and then placed back inside. On April 14, 1946, the third attack targeted Paul Martin and Betty Jo Booker. Martin's body was found on the side of the road, shot multiple times, while Booker's body was discovered nearly 2 miles away. The weapon used was the same .32 caliber Colt automatic pistol from the previous attack. The final attack took place on May 3, 1946. Virgil Starks was shot through a window in his home while reading a newspaper. His wife, Katie Starks, was also shot, but managed to escape and seek help from a neighbor. Despite her injuries, she survived and provided some information to the authorities, though it was not enough to identify the attacker. The media dubbed the perpetrator the Phantom Killer, due to his ability to strike and disappear without a trace. The Texarcana Gazette played a significant role in shaping this eerie moniker. Despite extensive investigations and the involvement of the Texas Rangers and FBI, the Phantom Killer was never caught. One of the main suspects was Yule Swinney, a known criminal with a history of car theft and other offenses. Swinney's wife initially provided details about the crimes that were not public knowledge, leading authorities to believe he might be the Phantom Killer. However, her testimony was inconsistent, and she later refused to testify against him, resulting in a lack of concrete evidence to prosecute him for the attacks. Swinney was imprisoned for other crimes, but no further attacks occurred while he was behind bars. Another suspect confessed in a note before taking his own life in 1948. He claimed responsibility for some of the attacks, but his alibi was supported by witnesses who stated he was elsewhere during the time of the murders. The fear instilled by these events led to significant changes in the community. Residents began to arm themselves, install new locks, and adhere to strict curfews. The atmosphere of dread was so pervasive that it inspired the 1977 horror film, The Town That Dreaded Sundown, which, although dramatized, was based on these real-life events. This movie was remade in 2014, indicating a strong ongoing interest in this sinister event. The Texarcana Moonlight murders remain unsolved to this day. Bog Bodies. Bog bodies are remarkably well-preserved human remains found in the peat bogs of northern Europe, particularly in Denmark, Germany, the Netherlands, and Ireland. These bodies, dating back to the Bronze and Iron Ages, offer a unique window into ancient human societies, their rituals, and their environments. The preservation of bog bodies is due to the unique conditions of peat bogs. Moss in these wetlands creates an acidic, low-oxygen environment that prevents decay. The peat's tannins act as a natural preservative, preserving not just bones but also soft tissues, hair, and even stomach contents. This preservation provides detailed insights into the lives and deaths of these individuals. Tallinn Man is one of the most famous bog bodies and was discovered in Denmark in 1950. This well-preserved body of a man, who lived around the 3rd century BC, was found with a noose around his neck, suggesting he was hanged. His serene facial expression, complete with stubble and a hat, has intrigued researchers and the public. Lindo Man, found in England in 1984, dates back to the 1st century AD. He suffered multiple injuries, including a blow to the head and a throat injury caused by a garrote around his neck. His body provides historians and anthropologists glimpses into what potentially represents ancient violent rituals. Clonycavan Man and Old Crogan Man, both discovered in Ireland in 2003, also provide intriguing details. Clonycavan Man, with his distinctive hair styled with a resin, possibly from the Iberian Peninsula, suggests long-distance trade and high social status. Old Crogan Man, standing at an impressive 6'6", bore evidence of a violent end and displayed signs of high status, such as manicured nails. The causes behind the deaths of these individuals are a subject of much speculation. Many scholars believe these bodies were victims of ritualistic practices. The theory of overkilling, inflicting multiple fatal injuries, suggests these acts were deeply symbolic, possibly linked to beliefs in sacrifice to appease gods or ensure fertility. In Ireland, many bog bodies were found at the borders of ancient kingdoms, leading some to theorize that these locations were chosen for ritualistic purposes, possibly related to kingship. Modern technology has greatly enhanced our understanding of bog bodies. CT scans, DNA analysis, and forensic reconstruction have revealed details about their diets, health, and even their last moments. For example, the Tallinn man's last meal consisted of porridge made from barley, flaxseed, and knotgrass, indicating a common Iron Age diet. As an aside, knotgrass would not be on my list for top last meals, and I can't imagine it was on his either. But I digress. Despite these advances, many aspects of these bog bodies remain a mystery. The reasons for the seemingly senseless violence and the specific cultural or religious contexts of these rituals are still hotly debated. The Millennium Prize Problems. The Millennium Prize problems are 7 of the most challenging unsolved problems in mathematics, each with a reward of $1 million for a solution. These problems were announced by the Clay Mathematics Institute on May 24, 2000, in Paris, France. This was inspired by the famous list of 23 unsolved problems presented by legendary German mathematician David Hilbert in 1900. The Clay Mathematics Institute aimed to bring attention to these profound questions and stimulate progress in mathematical research. A particularly notable story is that of Grigori Perelman, who provided a solution to the Poincaré conjecture. Despite his groundbreaking work, Perelman declined the prize money and the Fields Medal, citing his dissatisfaction with the ethical behavior of the mathematical community. His decision brought attention to the often unseen personal and ethical dimensions behind mathematical research. Perelman later withdrew from the mathematical community altogether to live a deeply private life. Also, I just have to take a moment here to discuss Grigori Perelman. When a journalist attempted to contact him in 2012, the journalist was rejected, with Perelman advising, quote, "You are disturbing me. I am picking mushrooms." I would love to ask Grigori Perelman if he was intentionally channeling Diocletian's cabbage quote there, but I have a feeling he wouldn't respond. But back to the Millennium Prize problems. To win the prize, a solution must be published in a peer-reviewed journal and be accepted by the mathematical community after a 2-year review period. This rigorous process ensures that only fully vetted and widely recognized solutions are rewarded, maintaining the integrity and prestige of the prize. The Death of Deana Ooa. Digna Ochoa y Placido was a notable Mexican human rights lawyer born in Misantla, Veracruz, on May 15, 1964. Ochoa initially pursued a religious vocation before transitioning into law. Her career was marked by her defense of environmentalists, political activists, and alleged victims of military and police forces. Her work brought her into frequent conflict with powerful entities, leading to numerous threats and acts of violence against her. In 1999, Ochoa was kidnapped and tortured in Mexico City, an incident that was followed by further threats and assaults. On October 19, 2001, Ochoa was found lifeless in her office in Mexico City. Initially, her passing was ruled as a suspicious event, and several theories emerged about the potential involvement of the military, government officials, and local power brokers. However, in March 2002, the Federal District Attorney's Office controversially declared the case as a self-inflicted incident. This conclusion was met with skepticism from various human rights organizations and Ochoa's supporters, who argued that the investigation was neither thorough nor impartial. One of the key theories surrounding Ochoa's case involves her legal work against the military and logging interests in Guerrero. Her efforts in exposing environmental damage and human rights abuses brought her into direct conflict with influential and potentially dangerous adversaries. To paraphrase a well-known phrase, Ochoa didn't end herself. Further in 2021, the Mexican government acknowledged she didn't end herself, but does not appear to have provided specifics. The Third Eye Man. The legend of the Third Eye Man has spooked students and residents around the University of South Carolina, USC, since the first reported sighting in 1949. This eerie figure is said to haunt the university's underground tunnels, commonly referred to as the catacombs. The initial sighting occurred on November 12, 1949. Two male students spotted a strange man dressed in bright silver, opening a manhole cover on the corner of Sumter and Green Streets, opposite the historic Long Street Theater. The man disappeared into the sewer system, leading one student, Christopher Nichols, to report the incident to the university newspaper, dubbing the figure the Sewer Man. The legend gained more traction in April 1950, when a university police officer discovered mutilated chickens near the Long Street Theater. While investigating, he encountered a man with grotesque features and a third eye on his forehead. The officer's frantic report led to a search, but no evidence of the strange man was found. This sighting, combined with the officer's detailed description, fueled rumors and fears on campus. Throughout the 1960s and into the 1980s, the catacombs became a popular, albeit forbidden, spot for adventurous students. Fraternity initiations and dares often involved exploring these tunnels. During one such escapade in the late 1960s, a group of fraternity brothers encountered a disfigured man dressed in silver who attacked them with a pipe. This incident resulted in the university sealing many of the tunnel entrances and warning students against venturing into the underground passages. Sightings of the Third Eye Man have continued sporadically over the decades, though they appear to have died down a fair bit. In the late 1980s and early 1990s, reports of encounters with the silver-skinned figure persisted, although these were often dismissed by university officials. Nonetheless, the legend endures, with each new generation of students adding their own tales to the mythos. Some suggest he is a vagrant, or a person with a severe disfigurement living in the tunnels. Others speculate about supernatural origins, considering the third eye a symbol of mystical powers or otherworldly abilities. The lack of concrete evidence leaves the story open to interpretation and imagination. The 1924 British Mount Everest expedition marked the third British attempt to conquer the world's highest peak, Mount Everest, standing almost 30,000 feet above sea level. The goal was clear: to reach the summit and achieve what had never been done before. The expedition was initially led by Brigadier General Charles G. Bruce, who had to relinquish his command to Lieutenant Colonel Edward Norton due to malaria. The team included notable climbers such as George Mallory, who had participated in both the 1921 and 1922 expeditions. Others included Sandy Irvine, a young and promising climber, and Noel Odell, who served as the expedition's geologist and oxygen officer. The team embarked on their journey from Darjeeling in late March 1924, traversing 350 miles across Tibet to reach the Rongbuk Valley Base Camp by April 29th. The logistics of the expedition were complex, involving a large support team of 150 Tibetan porters and highly skilled Sherpas. The expedition planned their route via the North Col, following the path identified in earlier expeditions. They set up several camps at increasing altitudes, with Camp 6 being the final push towards the summit. Norton set a new altitude record by reaching over 28,000 feet without supplemental oxygen on June 4, 1924. On June 8, 1924, Mallory and Irvine made their final summit bid from Camp 6. Noel Odell, observing from a lower altitude, claimed to have seen the pair ascending a prominent rock step. This was the last confirmed sighting of the climbers. The question of whether they reached the summit before their disappearance has been a topic of speculation and investigation for decades. In 1999, an expedition discovered Mallory's body at around 27,000 feet. His position suggested he had fallen, but crucially, the small Kodak camera he was believed to have carried was not found. This camera, if ever recovered, might contain photographs that could prove whether they summited. Several theories have emerged regarding their final moments. One suggests that they may have reached the summit but succumbed to exhaustion or injury during their descent. The lack of conclusive evidence and the missing camera continue to fuel speculation. There are also unverified reports that Irvine's body and the camera were discovered in the 1970s and subsequently removed by the Chinese government. Despite the tragic outcome, the 1924 expedition had a lasting impact on the world of mountaineering. Their efforts laid the groundwork for future expeditions, culminating in the first confirmed ascent by Sir Edmund Hillary and Tenzing Norgay in 1953. Further, the members of the expedition, including George Mallory and Sandy Irvine, were both awarded Olympic gold medals in mountaineering in 1924, after their passing. As far as I know, this is the only case of posthumous Olympic medals being awarded. Lamancha Negra, or the Black Stain, is a mysterious black substance that first appeared in 1986 in Venezuela on a highway leading to Caracas's airport. Initially, it was just a small smudge noticed by road workers, but it quickly spread, covering an 8-mile stretch of road. The substance itself has been described as an inch-thick, greasy black blob with the consistency of chewed bubble gum. It's infamously slick, especially when wet, making roads treacherous and causing numerous car accidents. Despite years of study and millions of dollars spent on research and remediation efforts, the exact composition and origin of Lamancha Negra remain elusive. One popular theory is that it results from poorly maintained vehicles leaking oil and other fluids onto the road, which then mix with dust and other materials to form the goo. Another hypothesis suggests that the substance could be a byproduct of a chemical reaction involving raw sewage from nearby slums, seeping under the asphalt and breaking it down. Some have even suggested extraterrestrial origins, although this is generally considered far-fetched. Efforts to remove Lamancha Negra have been extensive but largely unsuccessful. Techniques have included pressure washing, using detergents, resurfacing the roads, and even applying pulverized limestone, which temporarily dried up the goo. In 1996, specialized scrubbing machines from Germany were brought in, which seemed to provide a temporary solution, but the substance reappeared by 2001. The unpredictability of Lamancha Negra adds to its mystery. It appears to expand during hot, humid weather and recede when conditions are cooler and drier. It also tends to manifest in specific areas such as tunnels and uphill slopes. Despite the varying theories and ongoing speculation, no definitive cause has been identified, making Lamancha Negra a persistent mystery on Venezuelan roads. I note that there is scarcely little information out there on the chemical properties of this goo, which strikes me as somewhat odd. Like, subscribe, join the Patreon or YouTube membership, join the Discord, and also check out my Spotify page for lo-fi beats. All the links are located in the description. Shout out to my patrons Noah Schubert, Iced Mocha, Kurt the Squirt, Monoxide Wendigo, Jeffer Metcalf, Z-Volts, Jordan All, Unknown Delusions, Faye, Jack Russell, Boomslang, Spookiest Becky, Vespertine, Metanova, Will Roan, Crab Nebula, and Blasphemous.